From RUSGRAIN Union of the Russian Federation, Eduard Zernin. The extremely knowledgeable and well-known GK Sood, Mr. Sood, from Meir Commodities. I guess he'll be joining us. From City Commodities, Bangladesh, Muhammad Ali Rashed. And from StarAgri, India, Atul Chhura. Ladies and gentlemen, please also welcome Sir GK Sood. Thank you, sir, for stepping in. I'm sure the speakers outside are silent, otherwise Mr. Sood is always on time and in place. Thank you, Mr. Sood. Good morning. Muhammad Ali Rashed. I think he should join the panel as soon as he will. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand you over to your group commodity editor at CNBC TV 18 and your moderator for this panel on grains, Ms. Manisha Gupta. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Well, it's the second day and we have slow trickling in of people, but we're talking about grains right now, and this is an area where we have seen good numbers continue in India. Well, actually, when you look at the grain production within India, we've seen a near record, couple of record years last years, and for this year as well, the government has put very high targets. But what is it that we're looking for India? How are the other countries looking at it? The government policies, and of course, various climate-related and policy-related conversations is what we would be doing. But before we do that, we will be setting a context, and Rahul has a presentation to make, which takes around 10 minutes, which is a compilation of everybody's opinions and numbers. So we'll dwell into that first, and then, of course, take this conversation ahead.
Welcome, Mr. Ali. Yeah, hello, good morning. Welcome to all. Myself, Rahul Chauhan, I'm from Igrain, India. And thanks BSF for this event. Yesterday, we talked in many commodities about the prices. Prices are getting down. So these are the commodities where prices are very hot. So let's start with the presentation, please. These are moderator panelists. This is about wheat. From last 2 years, the wheat production in India is not so good, and that's why the prices are going on very high level. As you can see, this year we are expecting a good crop, 120 million metric ton. We can assume that the crop is going to come without any, if climate is controllable. So this time last year, the prices were very high. So the farmers, they have sowed in good numbers. And wheat prices have reached a record level in January 25, despite government's sale under OMSS. So wheat export from India is banned from May 23, and still I don't think so government will be going to open this. This is a open sale which FCI is doing. You can see these are some charts which I have prepared. On each and every tender, the tenders, they are awarded on very high prices. And due to that, the prices of wheat in India, they are at record level. And I don't think so they will come down. Now they have offered another 50,000 metric ton they have added in recent tender, which was on yesterday. This is the chronography or the steps taken by the government of India to control the prices, but unfortunately, the prices has not came down. From 23, stock limit was imposed, and you can see in after 1 month or 2 months, there are some orders by the government, like opening of OMSS scheme, increasing sale, reducing stock limits. And 25, the OMSS sales allocation was increased to 1.5 lakh tons, which was 1 lakh ton. But still, one bidder can buy only 100 metric tons in 1 week. This is the procurement by the government, by FCI, and you can see the wheat stocks at the pole. In 22 year, we were having very good quantity of wheat in the stock, but in last 2 years, it has been reduced. This is the wheat price chart. You can see the prices, they are moving ahead at a record level. And in the right-hand side, what I have shown, the MSP and their impact on the market. So by this sheet, you can say that the wheat prices may remain above 3,000 rupees. This is the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. This is the photo of my village, where 5 kg of wheat or rice has been given to the families. Maize, it's now you can say it's a golden crop in India, because 10 years back the maize was sold under 1,000 rupees per quintal. Now it is trading about 2,700 rupees per quintal per 100 kg. The reason is that government has a program of ethanol blending with the petrol, and the demand from maize is continuously increasing. That's why prices they have reached at a record level. You can see in the last sheet the percentage of maize used in ethanol. It is 51%. This is a price trend of Bihar, which is main market. You can see the prices, they are moving more than 2,500 per quintal, up to 2,700 rupees. Try, Mr. Rajiv, you can say about this. You want to?
Hello. So, very good morning and namaste to all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. So before I come to the topic of my organization, I would like to make a remark for which every Indian will take a lot of pride and the whole world has appreciated a lot. The 2 years of COVID were the most difficult times for everyone on personal and professional front both. And when every country was stocking rice for themselves, India had the large heart, believing in that philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is world is one family. India exported roughly about 42 million metric tons of rice during that difficult time, and which was valuing to about 20 billion US dollars. But more than the price, more than the revenue which India generated because of it, it was making rice at reasonable price available to poorest of the poor in the world. And we exported rice to 160 countries. And that was a massive work during those restrictive period, where there were a lot of COVID restrictions at the port for logistics, moving trucks, getting the workers at the plant. All that was very tough. But India was committed to that. And that's a great human service for the world. Now coming to the Rice Exporters Association, which I represent, this is an organization which is covering about 80% of the non-basmati rice which is exported out of India. And there are massive plants in India. If the importers come and see that, it will be mesmerizing. It's one of the largest plants in the world. So the government of India takes care of rice produced in about roughly 10 states, say like Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Punjab, Haryana, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, all these provinces. But I think it's gone. So 50% of the produce is taken care by private players. So this is something which is quite a good contributory factor, I would say. And during this, TRIA has members all across the country, and our vision is, of course, to promote non-basmati rice across the globe. Currently, India has about 40% market share in the global trade. So whatever happens in India has a huge impact in the world. In terms of prices, in terms of availability, of course, it all depends upon the production, demand and supply situation. The market finds its own equilibrium. But yet, there's a huge impact when the market leader, because when we had restrictions for 1.5 years, still India remained number one. because on selective basis, on humanitarian grounds, India did allow exports to some countries. Yeah, next please. Can you move this slide? Rahul, you can read the figures from there and you can...
Pardon?
You can speak on these figures from there because it's not visible actually.
This
But
is
yes.
non-basmati rice export performance from India. In 2010-11, we have exported about 2.47. That has been increased in 5 years to 10.5. In 18-12 million metric ton we have exported. And financial year 23-24, we have exported about 16.36 MMT of rice from India. And in financial year April to 24, the performance was like this. Basmati rice, it was 5.24 and non-basmati was 11.12. Why it has been reduced? Because government of India, they have put some restrictions on rice exports from India. This is the production of rice, which is increasing every year, which is a very good note, but there is one problem that in central pool, the stocks of rice is very huge, and government of India, they have allowed to rice to use in ethanol. बोलना सर आपको कुछ?
Okay, so the first restriction happened on 8th September 2022 when broken rice was prohibited. And then there was on 20th July 2023, there was a restriction on white rice. And then on 25th August 2023, parboiled rice was, there was 20% duty applied on parboiled rice. So these are the three major components of non-basmati rice. If you bifurcate rice into two, normally people would say basmati rice and non-basmati rice. But non-basmati rice has three components to it. One is parboiled rice, which India does every year about 7.5 to 8 million tons. Then you have white rice, which India does roughly about 7 million tons. And then you have broken rice, 100%, which is about 3 million tons. So that makes up to 17.5 million tons of non-basmati rice. And basmati is roughly about 4.5 to 5 million tons. So when you talk to a layman who is not aware about rice trade, he would only think in India that basmati rice is exported. But on the contrary, it is non-basmati rice which is the major contributor. Out of 22 million tons, 17.5 is non-basmati and 4.5 is basmati, 4.5 to 5 million tons. So it engages millions of farmers actually, non-basmati rice, and India is considered to be, the South India is considered to be rice bowl of India, which is of course the rice bowl of the world with 40% market share. So you will see the influence because there was a lot of price increase the moment India prohibited rice. Competitors like in Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar, Pakistan, I mean the prices have shot up to $650 per metric ton, which used to be around 450 or so. So the general consumer, for human mankind, I think it was catastrophic because people were not even getting 2 square meals. It was so tough, and now the prices have still tamed down. It has come down to 450. So we should thank the exporting community of India, which is, I think, not so greedy, and probably the prices have come down. They are controlling the prices in the world. And not to forget, the government policies had always been conducive. They have always supported the exporters, and the farming community, they are their first priority. And we should thank the farming community of India, which after, they are producing so much quantity that after feeding 1.4 billion, we are able to export this quantity of rice. So a big round of applause for the farming community of India.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is, as I told you earlier, these are the Indian stocks available with the FCI and different agencies. You can see the stocks are increasing every year, which is, if government is putting stocks, so much of money is taken account into that. Oh, this is rice exports from India, as Mr. Rajiv has already shared. I will bypass this. And Sri Lanka Customs, as per Sri Lanka Customs, they have allowed to import 1.67 lakh tons of rice from India. This is export history summary of Indian rice for this financial year. This is the last sheet where I want to show the MSP versus the actual market prices. You can see the wheat prices, they are looming very much high. Paddy prices, they are low, but maize and barley prices, they are above MSP. And jowar and bajra, they are below MSP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul, for that. Well, that was absolutely a context setting, and we've seen the production, the MSPs, the price movements, exports, and Mr. Sood, I'll come directly to you on this. We've seen basic numbers and government policies, how they have played on in sense of prices also seen. How are you looking at 2025 now? I mean, rice, as has been said, we saw export prohibitions and then those higher duties. Much of that is gone, but we do understand there are some issues even now when it comes to logistics or even exports. But overall, when it comes to all of these grains, whether it's wheat, rice, maize, how have you seen the government policies play out? What are you expecting in 2025? Is there a big budget change that you see coming in for this?
Thank you, Manisha. First of all, rice, because that I think is a major staple in the country. It was after 16 years that the restrictions came in 22-23. And the concern of the government of India then was, both the times, that if at all we, heavens forbid, need 2-3 million tons of rice, there's nowhere in the world you can get it. And what had happened was, in a run-up to the restriction, for 3 years there were massive exports. They went up by 7-8 million tons in the ultimate year. And we look at any commodity balance sheet as two numbers, the pipeline and FCI. And both FCI and pipeline depleted. Pipeline is very highly depleted. 12% year-on-year inflation. So I think if I'm a trader, I would have anticipated it. And because one must know how, because to manage a country of 145 million crore people. And now the concern is that outlandish buying prices announced by governments or political parties in several states, like 3,100 in Chhattisgarh, they are distorting the whole picture. They are, in fact, there are some areas where rice was not traditionally grown. It is expanding there. That is one concern which the Indian government will have to look at some stage. And they have a problem at hand with FCI. The excess rice can't be exported because of the WTO rules. They are now trying to get NAFED and NCCF to buy, and on the so-called market prices, not MSP operation, so that they can then bypass the WTO and export from there. So if they take off a few million tons of rice, so that is as far as our rice is concerned.
Sure.
Rice
Can I have you jump up to maize quickly before you go to wheat? Because I'll tell you the cabinet meeting is begun in India, and we could be hearing something about ethanol very soon, is what the sources tell us. But
I don't expect anything on maize in that, because the government of India has become alive to the plight of other users. And that is very recent. And that is one of the justifications, there are many, for allowing FCI rice at 2,800 rupees fixed price, delivered at any depot you want for the ethanol manufacture. And in fact, they said the justification was it will take off some pressure. So if at all a third tender for ethanol comes, it will be only for rice. And and then in the following year, 25-26, I expect rice to be maybe about 3-4 million tons from FCI to be given to ethanol. And on corn, one way of looking at it is incremental demand. 6 million, as Rahul's presentation said, from ethanol, 2 million from other users, 8. The delta in production is around 4. So you clearly see a 4 million tons gap. Add to that last year's import of 1 million, so 5. So something has to happen. We don't have so much of non-GMO maize in the world unless you drop the duty to 0 on Ukraine. Ukraine has 25 million tons export. So that is, corn imports have started. There are ships on water already. And so what will happen in my view is that poultry will suffer a little more. There will be some demand destruction. And that's all. No other sector can suffer because starch has price inelasticity. There's some talk of using the excess stocks of yellow peas in India in poultry, because yellow peas are used in cattle feed elsewhere. But for that, you need to make adjustments in the milling. So yes, corn is a crisis. Another unintended impact which corn is making is, it is making inroads. It's replacing soybean in Madhya Pradesh. And I'm afraid it might replace even tur dal in some places. So you want to be self-sufficient in oils, it will hit oils. Pulses, it will hit pulses. So in my view, there should be a serious rethinking on corn. ICAR has assured the government that they will get us 7 tons per hectare average in the country from 3.4. My question to them is, have you done that in oilseeds? You have been at it for 25, 30 years. You've done that in any other crop. So there is a productivity gap for about 2 tons in most crops in the country, which they can jump. So, so that is, so corn also is creating a problem for oil cakes. About 35%, the price is lower by 35% year on year. Whether it's rapeseed or cottonseed, rice bran, everything. Rice bran is going begging at 11,000. And so all those sectors are suffering. And so we need a serious relook at corn. And on wheat, I suppose, to read the government's mind, they are likely to be carrying about 12 million tons into the new season. Their thinking is 7.5 buffer norm, to contingency norm. So if a price of 33,000 in Delhi is not a contingency, what is a contingency? So they're not selling that. And so instead of 7.5, they're carrying 12 into April. Probably they're using it as a insurance against any crop disturbance. As of today, the area has gone up by 2 million hectares over what Rahul had put. Sure. If you calculate on our average productivity, you get 112. So it depends on finishing temperature, depends on some area to be sown. It could be 120. And my number is about 115. And so wheat, if we get 115, we have crossed the hump.
You're on the high side. One thing I have to give to Mr. Sood is that while Rahul had to read his numbers, but Mr. Sood can talk on wheat and rice and ethanol and sugar and maize, and all those numbers are on the back of your head. I don't know how you do that, but thank you for initiating that conversation. Eduard, let me come to you now. And, you know, we've talked about Russia in so many ways, whether as a grain bowl of the world, the way Russia and Ukraine are put together. But PM visited Moscow recently, and there are bilateral trades happening now. There also is a target of $100 billion of bilateral trade by 2030. And grains and fertilizer is going to be the major part of this. So when it comes to grains, would want to understand on where Russia stands. We have seen some batches, shipments come to India. Some are on the way. How do you see India as a market? How do you see India policies?
So, good morning, everyone. Very good morning, and Thank you again for inviting me for this conference. I really appreciate this opportunity to present Russian grain exporters and producers. And I prepared a presentation, so hopefully I can present it to you. And open also to answer any questions, so absolutely openly, so we have nothing to hide from you. And I believe these events help us to develop our open and trustworthy relations.
You have a presentation to make? Yeah, okay.
Do you have my presentation? Yeah?
This is the later presentation, perhaps. Okay, until that happens, let's talk to StarAgri then. Hello, how are you?
Okay, so there's some
Are
technical
we ready
issues.
with it? Are we?
Just to present myself and to shorten time for the presentation of our unions. We are quite young, just 5 years old organization that was created by the largest grain exporters of Russia. And now our members are just 30 companies, but these 30 companies are accountable for 80% of Russian grain exports. So that means the major force of grain market is concentrated in our union. So I personally was from the beginning, and my 5-year term is expired. So and next month, so we have an election, and I hope I'll be I'll be replaced by some of my colleagues, because it's very time-consuming. I have my own business. I'm mostly in producing grains. One of the okay, so yeah. So, but anyway, so I'll remain on the board and will represent Russian Grain Union in the future as well. So, what about grain export prospects? So, that's the slide with our members. Probably you know some of these names. Some of them are quite also young and energetic, but these guys are accountable for 80% of Russian grain export. So there are, well, all top 10 Russian grain exporters are the member of our union. And plus we have some niche exporters. We have quite a strong community in the Far East. This is the real the achievement, because the Far East is still in talks, but not in business. So, but now it's developing quite rapidly and solidly, and we even agreed to quota allocation specifically for the Far East traders, even for corn, which will be zero, as probably you know, for the second half of the season, will be zero for the central part of Russia. But anyway, so what we have, so we are the world leader in wheat export, and my presentation will be concentrated on grain and wheat. So, and our major markets, we call it our home market, is Middle East and Africa. Being more precise, Middle East and North Africa. All this Muslim world, which is consume a lot of wheat and its products in everyday life, so, and still far away from self-sufficiency. That means we being in a close proximity and quite a low logistic expenses can offer them highly competitive products. We almost dominate all the national markets, and closest competitor, EU, is losing its markets consistently because of the price-quality ratio, because our wheat is, well, the same quality but at less price. So we still have discount, we work on that, but for the moment it's up to $15, $20 per ton comparing with the European wheat. So this is not the kind of policy from Russia. This reflects our lower costs. So we have huge land volumes. We have quite developed agro technologies. So it helps us to be priced less than any our competitors on the market. So, and you see our results, they are really worth to our intentions. So, and for our flagship crop is wheat, as I already told, and this year and this season, particularly because of weather condition, the share of wheat even increased. So basically, it's about 70%, but this season it's already more than 80. And also the quota allocation for the second half of the season clearly show that we are lacking volumes of corn and barley, and will be concentrated for the second half of the season on wheat. Despite all these weather conditions and other factors, Russia is a #1 world wheat exporter already 5th year in a row. And last 6th year, we harvest more than 120 million tons each year. So it's a very significant result for us, and we are really proud on that, so being the part of this success story. Despite any macroeconomic, political, and any other obstacles, so we can produce and deliver our crop to our customers, like both domestically and internationally. And, well, this is the most important part. So what I would like to stress attention that, well, you see, for the wheat import, at the end, based on the results of the end of 2024, I would like to stress attention not on Egypt, so which is historically our close partner, and the private initiative help us to increase our volumes, but on Bangladesh. So Bangladesh, just the first time, became the #2 in terms of volume. So, and Turkey is #3. It's a quite of funny fact, because officially Turkey closed its import, but based on our logistic advance and our relations with local players, local storage facilities, so we use Turkey for our export operation. That's why technically Turkey become in our statistics as a buyer, but almost all these volumes belong to Russian exporters. So they just allocated in the first part of the season for the future deals. They are placed in Turkish warehouses. Then Algeria is our other success story of the recent years. So we've almost fully replaced French wheat on this market, and that's already our strong and reliable partner. And you see, Kenya is also a very interesting case, because this season, so they buying a lot. And that means we are in a good position with them, so we can offer our competitive prices not only for the Mediterranean region, but also for the whole Africa. If we continue this list, so you'll see Nigeria, another case of the recent season, which we were fighting for several years because of the political decisions. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Because of the political issues, they stopped buying Russian grain for several seasons. And finally, broke the world records in starving population. More than 100 million people were starving. And probably this help us, this sad statistic help us to reopen this market, and this season we already supply more than 1 million ton to Nigeria. But a few years ago, our plans were to supply them with 3 million tons. So, but we on the good pace for the, after 2 years of break, so we already achieved 1 million tons with them. And for the whole Indian subcontinent, you see, so it's quite a promising figures, I believe, because we can increase our supply. We can be, so we understand the situation with India, so we understand the focus of self-sufficiency. Frankly, we have the same in Russia, to stay self-sufficient in the most type of crops. But we can be the partner, we can be the plan B, which sometimes it works. So, and it's very important to have the partner like us who can support you in some specific conditions. So, and we still have volumes, so we, even based on the quota allocation, so we have more than 10 million tons of wheat available for export for the second half of the season, so the first half of 2025. And that's quite good numbers for you to make a trade in case of any occasion. So, and each year, so we open to agreed for some specific volumes which could be allocated for the season, just to help our partners, our friends, to deal with their local demand. So, and we are extremely competitive in other markets. So Bangladesh case show us that despite the political turmoil in the country, so we remain our leading position as a supplier. So, so we solve all the questions with the logistics, we solve all the questions with transactions and financial those transactions. So it's, well, we have competitive offer on the market. And what I would like to discuss also, so I mentioned yesterday the BRICS Grain Exchange Initiative. And I strongly believe there are some pros for this project. So the most important one, so we are talking about business project. That means we should concentrate on figures rather than political issues. So, and this, the main statement is straightforward. So we are talking about the new market, which is not taken by any other market players. So there is a huge market potential. In the spot figures, we are talking about almost 100 billion US dollars, slightly less than 100 billion US dollars. But based on our understanding of the multiples, derivatives versus spot, so we use quite a natural one, and our calculation show us another 900 billion US dollars turnover of derivatives. So that means the whole market could be weighted up to 1 trillion US dollars. So once again, this is the new market. So this is the greenfield project. So there is nothing on the base. So this is just about our trade relations. So we calculate our capabilities. We calculate the capabilities of our partners in BRICS. So, and that means we have very strong opportunities to create this and prosper. So, and I personally consider India as the most important partner in this project, just because we too, the #1 in rice export and #1 in wheat export, can combine our efforts, and we can facilitate the trade with the other countries. Now with Indonesia, who join us, the #2 buyer of wheat in the world market, and Egypt is already member of BRICS, so we have very balanced structure, for example, for wheat. And I believe we have a pretty balanced structure of supply and demand for rice. These two crops could be at the basement of the success. So we also should work with China and Brazil, which are quite closely linked with each other, because Brazil is probably one of the, now the biggest supplier of agriculture crops to China. And we can talk also about the biggest supply of corn and soybeans in the world, I mean Brazil, and the biggest
Edward,
consumer.
if I can just interject into that, as you said, you're looking to increase your trade with Asia. The numbers that we just saw show that all of Russia's trade, amongst all of that, only 18% is with Asia. How are you looking to increase this trade in Asia, specifically India?
Well, first of all, it's about whether market open or not. So we can supply at the moment. So, but once, for example, India open its market for supply of wheat, so I don't mean only for Russia. So we are highly competitive. So we are fine that if India open its market, so and we will compete on that. So I mean, this will bring us for sure another just different allocation of our markets, because now Meir is the most thankful consumer. So in Asia, we are competing in Indonesia. So I'm quite successfully competing with Australian oil, which is with Australian wheat. And we compete in Vietnam. And frankly, some of Australian millers who operate in those countries ask us to supply because they need to reduce their costs. So they can't do it based on Australian wheat. So we are open for market competition. So that's what we do in all our markets. So, and I believe that once we start supplying India, so Indian millers will be happy with the quality, with all the issues, and well, we will succeed at that and increase the share of Asia. And let me just talk about, so we quite often ask about sanctions and all this. Please pay attention to these 3 licenses. So supply of any agricultural products, particularly grain and wheat, so are sanction exempt. So you see 3 licenses of the USA, UK, and European Union. So please, in any cases and any issues with your banks, you can refer to these 3 licenses. If you need the support, so we work closely with the United Nations Office, particularly with the General Secretary Office. He helped us a lot because in some countries it was the real case, then only United Nations could help us. So because everyone understands the importance of food supply, and this exactly the legal base of the transaction for Russian grain, for Russian wheat, or any other agricultural products. So, and I leave this presentation. You can find it also in our sources, which I would like to also to stress attention, and please stay updated with our news. We are quite active on Twitter, or X as is now known, and also let me invite you to our Grain Forum, Grain in Pulses this year forum in Dubai. That will be in February, and we're open to talk case by case on specific business deals and relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edward, for that. Well, that's where Russia stands right now. And as Edward points out, that even with all of those sanctions that we have seen, the numbers do seem good. And we really do hope that the Asian markets open up, especially India as well. Atul, let me come to you now and your sense on the grains as a market. And how would you look at 2025 opening up?
Thank you so much and good morning all. Coming to maize, we are now looking at 2 major crops coming in, which is maize and wheat. In terms of maize, we are looking at Bihar crop, which is coming in. But as per our initial estimates, this time there has been a lot of shift in Bihar from maize to wheat. Wheat acreage has increased while maize acreage has slightly reduced. And from our last stage experience, we are looking at a lot of maize immediately moving out of Bihar at the time of arrival. And we are looking at feed mills and other companies, and even all the maize players, they have maintained about 2 to 3 months of inventory storage at their plants. So a lot of movement will be immediately off the rake movement out of Bihar and at a very higher prices. And this year the stocking in Bihar would comparatively would be less as compared to the last year because there's a lot of pipeline in the stock which is there. With maize, another challenge which we are looking at, since we are talking about the ethanol industry, I think ethanol industry is already at 71 rupees as a rate of the ethanol. They have a higher ceiling at maize landing to their plant at about 26 rupees, which is going to be an extreme big challenge for ethanol players, especially with their 30 to 40 days payment terms coming from the OMC. I think that there's extreme pressure on that on the ethanol. And so we are a lot of support in warehousing and finances would be going towards the ethanol player. I think there is also a request by the ethanol players to increase the price to about 73. I think we'll see in the cabinet today or maybe coming this week if that price is increased, because if that's not going to happen, I think ethanol players are going to find it very, very difficult on that. Coming on to wheat. In wheat, we are working very closely with the UP government. We are doing a remote sensing project for them. So in wheat, this year, especially in UP, we are looking at an increase not only in the acreage, but even the health graph of the wheat is looking very, very better as compared to last year. Historically, it is about 37 or 3.7 tons per hectare kind of yield which UP has seen. But if we get that early instances, we are looking at UP this year maybe touching about 4 tons per hectare. So this will add another 2 millions into into the overall kitty of the maize production only for UP. And thus at overall level, we are looking at wheat on a slightly higher side as compared to last year. So somewhere around 118 or maybe 120 million tons of the wheat which we are looking at this year. And fingers crossed for the weather coming into the February. I think there'll be a lot of challenge on the government side on the procurement because currently they are at a very low stock level currently in the wheat. If the number is right, like 18 million tons, which is higher than the last year in the 16, but there are still 6 months for the new wheat from the government to come into the market. And there are commitments about 6 million tons going into the beneficiary schemes and another 3 million for the market. I think by that time, the new crop will come from, if they will start selling that, they would be sitting at a closing stock of somewhere around 8 million metric tons. So government will have to buy at least 27 million tons to maintain the same buffer or the same levels as the last year, which I see is going to be very, very challenging for the government unless some of the states will come and declare some of the bonus. Otherwise, we are looking at a very tough times coming for the government to maintain this kind of stock. And especially with replacing rice, replacing wheat with rice in the PDA scheme, and that is also not going very good with public. So they have to at least come back to the similar wheat. So all the best to the government and how they're going to decide on the policy for that.
Interesting times is what we can say. But what is your sense now for grains and how do you look at the country? I mean, one thing we've understood is that most countries are going through some challenge, unrest or the other. So when it comes to grains for you, what does it define?
Good day. There's Bangladesh is actually a big population country, but we are the small country. Population is more than 165 to 170 millions. We have the total, the consumption is the grain to wheat 1.6 above is the consumption, the capacity in Bangladesh. And supposed to the main exporting country, what is the RUSGRAIN exports from Russia? Yes, it's number 2 is from Russia, and similar is also from Ukraine, and second hand is from Canada. So if you go to about the rice is actually controlling by our government. So we don't have any permission for the rice importing, but ending the season from October to December, government allocation to the 500,000 tons. So that's only come to through of quota. So remaining, we have the rice is enough for the site. And grain, we are 90% depending on importing. and the main country, whatever the as well as from Russia, Ukraine, Canada, and Argentina, like that.
I do know that we've eaten into, or we are eating into the next panel, but I quickly want to come to you with one word as an answer. You know, this is a game that we play in our newsrooms, and this changes every month, by the way. We ask all our editors on what is that one thing that you will watch out for the next 1 month. So last year, most of the people kept saying China, and then dollar, and then rupee, and then US, and Trump, and weather. So this keeps changing all the time. So I want to come to each one of my panelists asking you, that is the one thing that you will watch out for 2025 going forward. Rahul.
In wheat commodity or what?
One word. What is that one thing, one event?
Dollar versus rupees.
All right. Mr. Sood.
Disruption unleashed by Trump. It has a lot of impact everywhere.
That is on the top of the mind, yes.
So regarding rice, I would say that it is broken, 100% broken to be lifted by India. And japonica and glutinous rice to be promoted by Ministry of Agriculture, and we are sure to rule this world on rice. Thank you.
What is the one thing that you're watching out for in the markets?
For the currencies,
Currencies?
yeah, it's a currency. We are the now is good position. So you're recovering. So for our side, it's currency no issue. We expecting it will be more comfortable because we are reserve fund is going to the strong.
Clearly. Edward, what is that one event you'll watch for?
Well, for us it's very good questions because so many vectors to look. So we expect some political reasoning.
Okay.
We expect some, well, we hope, that's the right word, and we hope that some, a good mind will come back.
Sanity will prevail. Yeah.
And in both in agriculture and a general business environment, because we see some downside effect, not only for Russian business, but also for the international one. Many our partners, former partners by the occasions, comply a lot of losing our markets or losing our joint opportunities.
So situation easing is what you're saying.
Yeah, I would say so. We hope the situation will be slightly, at least, easy than.
We hope so too. Atul, what's your sense?
So I'm really watching out for one word, which is the role of technology in increasing yield, in enabling more trades, and giving more information to mitigate the risk. I think that could be really a game changer for this sector.
All right, so high on hope, and with a lot of hope is how we are ending this panel here. Thank you, gentlemen. We were short of time, but we've managed to get in your top comments on this space.
Congratulations, Manisha. Yet another session extremely well done. Thank you very much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to this panel and to the lady who really takes it forward. Manisha, if you could do us one more favor and give the panel the trophies, the recognition plaques. If you could just step to the center of the stage. The first, we'll start to your right-hand side, the gentleman to your extreme right. The first one will go to Rahul Chauhan of Igrain, India. Rahul, if you'll walk to the center of the stage. The next one to Mr. G.K. Sood. Thank you, Mr. Sir, for being with us here again. Your presence always makes it special. Up next, the Executive Director, Rice Exporters Association of India, Rajiv Kumar. Coming up from City Commodities, Bangladesh, Mohammad Ali Rashed. Eduard Zernin from RUSGRAIN Union. From StarAgri India, Atul Chhura. May I request the panel give us a memento photograph all together?